Sorry, speaking of crispy,
Oh, yes.
I do have a food recommendation for you, Paul.
Oh, lay it on me.
I don't know if you've ever made crispy fried scallions.
Okay, I have made scallion oil, and the byproduct of making scallion oil is that there are fried scallions in it. Is it basically what you do?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, because I've been using that scallion oil on pretty much everything. I've just put it on rice, and it's delicious.
I'm glad you brought it up, because I love to talk about it. It's such a delicious thing. That is the secret. We make lo mein noodles with it, and you just do a little bit of the oil. We put some miso or some I forget what the name of the Korean soy paste is, but we'll use that sometimes. And
nice.
What's the other thing? Oh, soy sauce. We get a little bit of the great American soy product that we have. We put that in there. But you mix those together into like a little like sauce, and then you make your noodles, and you just pour that into it, and you put a little bit of that noodle water in there. Bango, scallion oil noodles.
It literally makes everything better, to say nothing of the crispy scallions you get as well, which also make everything better.
It's one of those beautiful things where there is no waste. It's a zero waste proposition. You just create two delicious things at once.
Totally.
Have you tried this? Slice up a little garlic and throw some garlic in there too.
Ooh, no, I haven't.
Slice it like thin, but not too thin.
Okay.
And put those in there. And then you get crispy garlic bits too.
I do love a crispy garlic chip. Like if I'm doing like a tofu bowl or something, a little crispy garlic in there is real nice.
Oh, so good. I haven't tried it yet, but I also have been thinking about maybe throwing in some. I've gotten real big into shallots. I'm huge into shallots right now.
Shallots are like everything we love about garlic and onions. Like two millennial, what's cooking? It smells great items.
They're the chocolate peanut butter cup of the vegetable world.
I mean, the one problem with shallots.
Okay.
The only problem with shallots is you're gonna cry, which might be good for you if you are looking for outlets to like express yourself a little bit, and like you need a safe reason to cry. Shallots will do that for you.
Oh yeah, they'll clear you out. I think they're a highly aggressive onion. The most aggressive onion you've ever encountered. They're coming at you.
I'm about to buy those little science class safety goggles for my shallot addiction.
Why aren't we wearing safety goggles in the kitchen? Like, what's the harm? You know what I mean? I
will say that I'm not sure if I subscribe to this, and this seems very Catholic to me. So I'm going to vet it with you, Paul.
I'll love to hear this. Go ahead.
My dad and my sister keep bees.
Okay.
And they're very adamant on the fact that occasionally you will get stung by a honeybee. And if you keep bees for long enough, it's not a deal, and it makes the honey taste better because you suffered a little bit for it.
That is very Catholic.
I think shallots also maybe taste better because the stinging in your eyes is still semi-present when you're eating the crispy fried shallot. So.
It's like, and I don't know, I've never given birth, but I would imagine that giving birth, the pain of it is a little bit of the like. You're like, I went through that. I endured that.
Yeah, it's a little bit of. This better be worth it because that sucked.
It's like a runner's high, right?
Yeah.
This is highly Catholic thinking that we are going to.
Pain is good, actually. It's good that we felt pain.
I deserve to suffer a little bit. I can't have this be pure pleasure.
Fucking shallots, dude.
Fucking shallots, the delicious treat that stabs your eyes. Crisp them up, though. Crisp everything up. Throw everything in a little bit of oil. Let it simmer in there, and slow and slow. If you're listening to this and you want to try this, just turn your oil. I like to do it in a wok. That's how I usually do it. And then bonus seasons your wok to taste like delicious things as well. But yeah, you just throw it in there, and I just do like a low heat, like a 1 or a 2 on my burner.
That's smart. I went a little too high, I think.
Yeah.
Because I'm used to like making like karage or tonkatsu or whatever, and I'm like, that's the temperature this needs to be. It's not. It's a thin shallot. Like you just need a little bit.
It's a slow. Yeah, you can just let it happen. I like with the scallion one. I do that over like a half an hour period.
That's really slow.
Real slow. It's a real slow extraction of those flavors.
I have much to learn.
Try it with the garlic in there. I'm telling you, try it with the garlic, and you're gonna love it.
No, I know you're right. I know for sure that you're right.
What have you been putting the oil on?
So I do this rice bowl. That's I put some olive oil on some broccoli in a cast iron, and I throw that in a really hot oven to kind of char.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then I do the crispy fried shallots in shallot oil, and then I fry some tofu on one side, and then I make a sauce with some soy sauce, some ginger, a little bit of sriracha, and I use vegan butter because one of my roommates is lactose intolerant, but also vegan butter makes a damn good sauce.
It's good. It's good stuff. It's just good tasting oil. That's all it is, you know?
With like cornstarch in it. There's
their two pillars, soy and corn.
Yeah. There's your hardworking American agriculture.
Prior to recording, Kevin and I were talking about the two products that are in everything, soy and corn in America.
Yeah, and how, like, that's interesting, but we could also, like, subsidize other agriculture bits. And then I said that I feel really old talking about this kind of thing.
You get older, you start cooking for yourself. And I mean, maybe some people cook for themselves their entire lives, but I feel like it's like one of those rites of passage for a lot of people. You move out, right? You start being like, well, I have no money. I better cook food or else I'm not going to be able to eat, you know?
Yeah.
And so then you move into that phase and then you start having food opinions.
Yeah. Well, I start having food opinions when, like, I come back from the grocery store and I'm like, I spent how fucking much? So.
Because we're not getting the goods. Because all the good, cheap stuff is the stuff that has subsidized corn and soy in it.
Yeah. Are we already feeling the absence of Chad here? Because we're getting very deep in the weeds on shallots, which we should subsidize.
I would love it if they were... Add a new pillar. One more pillar. If you add shallots, I will forgive the soy and corn pillars. But yes, you are correct. I think Chad would have been like, guys... Sonic time now.
I know. He would have said something about Sonic the Hedgehog, and I know he's listening to this episode right now because he listens to every episode.
He does. He's the primary reviewer of episodes.
But I feel like he would have said something fun and funny right about now. But yeah. we gave Chad his mandatory vacation day so that he could have a little time to chill, and we could tackle another Goosebumps book.
Another bump. And we're talking about Chad right now, and I want to say I was reading this book, and I was 3/4 of the way through it, and I said, God damn it, Chad is not going to be here to talk about this. And Chad, you're listening to this right now, and I really mean it. There was a moment where I was like, this is something that I don't remember how many years we've been doing this show for, but it is something that Chad and I have railed on. And this book does it. Which is, I'm not gonna talk too much about specifics, but this book lays some seeds in the beginning of the book and then reaps the harvest at the end. Surprisingly, something that R.L. never does. He decided to do it in this book.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Let's start the show proper. Welcome to Goosebuds. My name is Kevin.
My name is Paul.
And Chad is not with us currently, but he is listening, and we love him dearly.
Chad's ghost is here with us right now.
Yes. This is a show where we already know. You can read an iTunes description, so you're good. You can probably tell from context clues just by the name. This episode, we've read the Goosebumps 2000 title, Attack of the Graveyard Ghouls.
So what's the book that's coming after this?
It's something slime, right?
It's like Slam Street or something like that.
It's like Slime Time or Clam Street or something.
Clam Streets. I was Googling. I was going to Google the series to try and bring up the series, and I Googled Goosebudds 2000.
Oh man, if we could all just like get in a time machine or de-aging machine or some combination of the two and go back 20 years.
I would love to have been able to do this show as Goosebudds 2000. We missed the window.
It would be like 17-year-old Paul and Chad recording with 13-year-old Kevin.
You know what, Kevin? It's a bad idea, actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, if I had that level of brain, not that I've advanced that much, but if I were on 17-year-old Paul level, things would be bad.
There'd be a lot more magic card talk, I'll tell you that much.
Mm-hmm. I'm ready to say it. I'll cancel myself right now.
Oh God, yeah.
I'm canceling 17-year-old Paul. Brain Juice was the was the name of the next book. And we laid out the 2 books, Attack of the Graveyard Ghouls, which is what we're reading today, and Brain Juice to Chad, and offered him his mandated day off. And Chad said, Brain Juice sounds more interesting. So, but you know what? After having read Graveyard Ghouls, I'm not so sure, because this was one of the most interesting books we've read, in my opinion.
This book rules. It has foreshadowing and themes and a message and characters that are interesting.
And chaos and the darkest imagery. This book is filled with dark imagery. Like, things that I did not think were possible to be done in a children's book.
Yeah. Some dark stuff happens. Some kind of interesting gender fucky stuff happens towards the end as well.
It has a gender bending ending.
And that's great.
It's cool.
Here's the thing, Paul.
Yes, Kevin.
I don't think R.L. Stine wrote this book, and not because it's good.
Okay, elaborate, please.
I just think, like, I can see little touches of R.L.'s hand in here, like,
for sure,
the mention of sour, falling hard on hands and knees, all that, like, that's there. That's easy to just slot in.
Some cat slander.
It's a little bit of cat slander.
Hashtag what happened to Duke? Hashtag where's Duke?
I know. I had the same note.
Oh my God.
I had the exact same note.
I cannot believe they left me hanging on Duke. Oh my God.
It's fucked up.
But
that all seems very RL. What doesn't seem RL are all the things I mentioned. Mostly the addition of a message in the work does not seem very RL. He does not seem overly concerned with moralizing Goosebumps.
Exactly. And I think the message and, again, the actual setting up of character traits and story, this one is replete with the story setting a thing up and then utilizing that thing to create forward momentum in the story. Or to create a character moment in the story. Again, things that never happen. Usually it's just like, oh, I'm scared of bees. Never going to see a bee in the story. Or if I do, it's not going to have anything to do. It's just going to scare me, and then that's it. And then there's nothing, it's not going to make me grow or change. It's just going to be... But in this one, our character is scared of spiders and then has a legit face the fear moment, Like, and we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the details, but it actually comes into play.
It's wild. And like there are a lot of like very like Goosebumps things in there, like the use of live animals in scary scenarios that like I like really noticed that in Horrorland that we read with Ian. Like Return to Horrorland has a lot of animal based scares, and so does this one, wildly enough. But yeah, it's crazy how much this book feels literary when held up to the other.
Right. We've read I feel like we've read a couple that have been literary, and I think they've been in the 2000 series, right? Like I think I can't remember exactly which ones at this point because we read so many of these books, but I do believe, like, I think Cry the Cat worked for us, right?
Yeah, I did like that one.
And I feel like there was another one too that we actually, when we finished, we were like, "What? That was a pretty good book." And I'll say, well, I don't want to spoil too much. I don't want to give too much ahead, but I do think the ending, I think it misses in this. But I think everything that leads up to that, the finale of this book is great. It's the denouement that fails, in my opinion. It's sort of the finale that fails. I would argue the finale is actually the portion before the portion that I think fails. But I think the portion that fails was intended to be the finale.
Yeah. We'll get there.
We'll get there.
I also felt a little bit empty at the end of the book, despite so many setups being paid off by the end.
There's a couple screw-ups. There's a couple missed moments here, and I think it's sad because there are so many good moments throughout it.
Yeah. To give you a run through of some of the characters, our main guy is the scrawny goody-goody Spencer Casimir, which is not an RL name.
No. And then there's another name in this too, which is what's his friend's name?
Audra Rusinas.
Audra Rusinas. Like, wow, like where did these names come from?
They feel like real people.
I think subliminally I knew that I was in for something different just from reading Spencer Casimir.
Mm-hmm.
Just from reading
Spencer Casimir. The Reigns of Casimir, my guy.
The Reigns. Casimir burns some shit down. So it works on levels. It's not just a funny sound alike. It thematically ties together as well.
Oh my god, the amount of arson in this book.
This is arson centric.
Oh man. This book takes place in the fictional, I think, town of Highgrave, which is Dark Souls as fuck.
It's very H.P. Lovecraft via a newer perspective, a newer not racist perspective, and it's pretty incredible. So like the town of Highgrave literally has a high graveyard that overlooks the town, and as our main character Spencer writes in a opening book essay. If you live in Highgrave, you can't escape the graveyard, which is true of everywhere and everyone. No one escapes the graveyard, Spencer. but his words, there is a high graveyard that overlooks the town, and the imagery here is incredible.
It is. And like, okay, so when I learned that the first like couple pages, they're actually part of Spencer's essay, I was like, oh, this is RL writing a way more interesting, like, dream within a dream type thing, and then moving on to the regular bullshit.
Yep.
Like, he's done that a few times before.
Yes. He's had the kids write stuff before. I feel like this time he started it out. It was really interesting. He started it out writing it like I feel like a kid would write it, where he kind of like did short declarative statements and like made it feel like, not that his prose is incredibly complex at any point, but I do feel like he tried to like make it sound like a kid had written it. But then it jumps into like his like poetic descriptions of the graveyard, and it moves again. I don't know if RL wrote this, because it's like there's some really good scene setting of this graveyard, like talking about the mist that's forming on the bottom of the graveyard, and the gravestones are floating above the hill overlooking the town. Great stuff.
Amazing stuff. We get, among our antagonists are Frank Foreman and Buddy Tanner, two shits who are in Spencer's class. And I love that Spencer thinks that everyone thinks these two guys are cool.
Nobody thinks they're cool.
Nobody thinks they're cool, Spencer. They're just also afraid of them like you are.
Only Frank and Buddy think they're cool, and you were just reading they're just projecting an air of strength and confidence that you are not currently capable in your period of life to project. But you will be able to eventually, Spencer. Your day will come. But for now, you must know, do not reveal your weakness to Frank and Buddy, because it is what they feed off of. Because Spencer writes a paper about being afraid of spiders, and then they put a spider in his desk every day for a month.
And again, you may think, oh, a fear of spiders, that just shows he's a scaredy cat. This actually comes back. This is an important detail.
Back. It never comes back.
I was surprised I even wrote it down. Like, I expected it to come back. I didn't. It just comes back.
And then we're going to hit a couple more things soon too, which come back, which is it should not be that impressive, because it should be basic ass writing, but in this series it's impressive.
It doesn't feel like there's too many unnecessary elements in this work.
There's not a lot of fat there's not a lot of fat on this one. It moves, it goes.
This is a prime cut right here.
I'm trying to think of a prime cut of meat. Couldn't think of one. Prime rib. Sure.
I can't afford the good meat. So
whatever the good meat is.
Yeah. This is a extra firm block of tofu right here.
This is a big cup of soybeans right here.
Yeah, buddy. So Spencer has a rather sizable family.
Yes.
Which I did find a little exhausting, but I think I was kind of meant to, because there's a lot of characters we were being introduced to.
And another proof that this was maybe not written by RL. No descriptions of what they look like. Nope. Their ages are mentioned, but only briefly, and not in relation to each other and the power dynamics that creates. In fact, all the kids are seemingly on the same level of power in this house. You know what I mean? Like, they're all creating their own chaos within the home. And the parents seem to hate all of them equally, which is another thing that is not normal in an RL book. Usually our main character is the most hated.
There's some like some dad body language towards the midpoint of this book that is very funny to me, and we'll get there.
Okay.
But for now, you need to know that Spencer has a younger brother, Jason, and two other younger siblings, Remy and Charlotte, who kind of get mashed up into one just chaos.
Right, they're chaos. They're like, and I think that RL does do that, where like he'll just be like, these two kids are a unit. They have no individual defining properties. They're just a unit of they're two pieces of chaos that exist.
Yeah, he's done creepy twins before.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And also there's Duke, who's a black cat and a good little man.
Duke is sweet and just likes to rub and love on everybody and does a good job of protecting them from rats.
Yeah, which is apparently a threat in this rural suburban neighborhood of Highgrave.
Mm-hmm. So here's my first problem with the book. With the first like thing that didn't really go well with me. So I'm liking Highgrave, right? I'm liking sure. Name aside, I guess you would name your town Highgrave because it has a high graveyard. That's fine. But there's stories about ghouls that live in the graveyard. All right, that's spooky. That's a scary thing, you know. Like, and it's a scary looking graveyard. It looms over. There's an air of fear that permeates this entire town. But then the reason for why the ghouls are haunting the town is because they were buried up too high. Not really buying that excuse. Could like. I know you're trying to play it. You're trying to like we're trying to use every part of the buffalo, but maybe give us another like slightly more creative reason as to why ghouls are rising from the dead in this town. Maybe the fact that half the town was burnt down at one point. Maybe have the specter of citywide arson be the reason why ghouls are prevalent in the graveyard that sits above the entire town.
I thought the ghouls being present because the graves were up too high was part of Spencer's original essay or story.
I think so.
So he might just that might just be a reflection of his ignorance that he doesn't know why there are ghouls in the graveyard. He's like, maybe it's odd for a graveyard to be this high, and like he doesn't know about his town's dark history of arson and hangings.
That's a good point because they don't. He goes, so they go on a class trip to the graveyard, and that's when he finds out about the dark history of the town, which a little glossed over, right? Like we don't get, and maybe that's realistic because maybe a kid wouldn't, maybe they would see the information about the town being burnt down and then kind of move on from it, right? Like not fully pay attention to it. So maybe it's realistic, but I did feel like some pretty big truth bombs are dropped when they're up in the graveyard.
Yeah, and I've gone on a field trip like in Massachusetts. Like there are tons of places you can go where it's like, here's the problematic history of this exact spot. Like we used to think there were witches here and we killed a lot of teenage girls. Well.
Yep. Yeah, you're a real hotbed for that stuff.
And that's where we take like elementary school kids.
That's where we take elementary kids and don't teach them the real reasons and the right reasons. Don't teach them the right aspects of it.
They're like, ooh, witches, huh, kids? Here, buy a mug.
Witches are still the problem, right, kids?
You kids are anti-witch, right? Of course you are. Of course you are.
I think this opening is really interesting too. Just one other little thing. He gives his he's giving his speech. He's reading his paper on Highgrave, on the graveyard.
Yeah.
And he's being heckled by Frank and Buddy, the two that never shut up.
Yep.
And he keeps getting in his head and is having these he's going on these long diatribes. And the time dilation of this moment is really strange because we're in his head for like paragraphs and pages. And then like the teacher's like, go on, Spencer, tell us the rest of your story. And then like Frank says one thing and then he's back in his head for another like 2 or 3 pages. And then the bell rings and you're like, was he just standing there like silently contemplating for like 10 minutes, or was time dilating? Like, were we just like hyper speeding through his brain? Was this like a Aronofsky like hypercut? Like in his mind. So I thought that part was a little strange, but it worked out. He goes home. He's hanging out with the family, as you said. We're seeing the chaos of the family.
Yep.
And I think it's his job to take care of the kids for the night or something, right?
Yeah, so he puts on a cartoon and he calls up Audra, who's his friend, but it's very clear in another very non-RL move, that he kind of, there's a bit more admiration there.
Yes, yes.
He wishes he could be closer to Audra.
I'll say this about the books and the ones that we think are written by RL and the ones that we don't think are. I think anyone that has romance typically isn't written by RL. I think RL typically goes for a platonic relationship, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. I feel like that's more likely.
From what I've seen, yeah. And for a while I was wondering if that was like a note from his editors, but it might just be a stylistic choice on his part that he just prefers to do platonic relationships.
Which I respect. I would respect that. Not that I think that you can't have this, what this book has, but I do respect going with a platonic relationship.
I think, like, as a young man, being exposed to the idea that men and women can be friends and there doesn't have to be any romantic element to that, I would have liked to know that.
Yeah, it's like seeing The Lord of the Rings for the first time and being like, wow, men can be nice to each other and just be soft and love each other. That's great.
Yeah, for all the problematic shit about Scrubs, one thing I think they did very right was like close male friendship. I'm like, yeah, like, it's good to show that.
It's good to show that. Show that, please. Spencer does have this crush on Audra, and Audra is pretty much letting him know that she likes him too. She's like, she does not like Frank and Buddy. She's not hanging out with Frank and Buddy. And she's inviting Spencer to go dancing. And so, which he refuses to do because he doesn't want her to see him acting like a fool, which will come back. Another callback related to this later in the book.
I never would have guessed this would come back, but it is telegraphed later. There's another dancing beat.
Yes, there is. Yes, which also is a self-contradiction inside of the story, but that's okay. We'll get there too.
But Paul,
yes,
as a young man, would you go dancing with a girl?
No,
that seems a lot for me.
It's real. It's real. This book nails little boy idiocy because not only does Spencer not go dancing, the obvious invite from the girl that he likes, who obviously likes him, and he avoids that. But they're on the field trip the next day, and it's cold out, and everybody's wearing their fall or winter clothing, and he decides not to zip up his jacket because he wants to prove that he's rugged to the girl he likes, which is just...
I love that. I love that.
That's real, too, and that's the idiocy. It's like totally missing the obvious one and then doing the really stupid one.
Yeah. Like, she already likes you, dude. She asked you to go dancing.
You don't have to get pneumonia for her to like you, dude.
Men would literally rather get pneumonia
than dance.
So I think like 15 seconds into exploring the graveyard with his class to do like graveyard rubbings or whatever, grave rubbings. We did this too in Massachusetts. I don't know why.
We never did graveyard rubbings. I was like, that's not going to come out right. But I guess it does. I guess it really works.
You got some interesting graveyards in Philly.
Oh yeah, we totally do. I don't think we ever did a graveyard rubbing. I don't remember it.
Yeah. But later on, as you get older, a graveyard rubbing becomes a different thing. But they immediately knock over a tombstone.
You got me with that one.
I mean, it's a quiet place.
What is there? One person that works in a graveyard? They're not getting bothered.
Oh, if that. I mean, the cops know. They'll buzz it, but
right. Oh yeah.
As long as you can throw the booze somewhere, then you're fine.
They're gonna hit the parks and the woodses first, you know.
Yeah, or the water tower. That's
tower.
A very specific joke for my high school friends that got trapped on top of the water tower when the cop came.
Oh my god! Well, that's a smart, dangerous but exciting place to make out.
Very true. Similar to the quarry, which is also a dangerous and exciting place to make out.
No, I'm not going anywhere near the quarry. No, thank you.
Quarry at night. I'm amazed that no kids in my memory disappeared into the quarry. So they knock over gravestone.
A gravestone, yeah.
They knock that shit over almost instantly.
And I should have written down what it said on there, but I think it says something like, "If you disturb us, we're cursing your ass." I'm paraphrasing here.
Yeah, and the other detail is that Spencer lost his backpack somehow, and he's borrowing his little brother's purple Barney backpack.
Yes, and this is like, that was a moment that I bounced off a little bit, where I was like, you lose your backpack, you know? Like, that's like, as a kid, that's like you need to hold on to that backpack. That's got your most valuable possessions inside of it, you know?
I just put all that shit in a plastic market basket bag, kid.
Would you just market? Were you doing tote bags back in the day? Were you leading the tote bag fashion accessories?
No, I would say I'd literally put it in like a thin plastic grocery bag rather than use my little brother's kitty backpack.
You mean the stuff I put my cat's poo poo and pee pee in?
Yes, exactly.
No, you're right, Kevin. That's 13-year-old or 12-year-old boy logic. Like, I would rather do that than borrow the purple Barney backpack. I would absolutely do the trash bag. I would take it in a trash bag before I would take it in my kid brother's backpack.
In Spencer's defense, the bag is unmarked. It is purple, and it's the same purple as Barney, I learned that's a detail that's been cut out of later printings of the book.
I didn't know that. What does it say now? What is it just? It's just purple, and it's
just purple. There's no mention of Barney.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, I think that was an important detail.
Yeah. Well, I do too. It really helps to sell the childishness.
Maybe I guess they're banking on or they're thinking that kids might not know who Barney is now. Maybe.
I picture the backpack as super tiny.
Yes,
like it's like a I don't know. It's like a rave backpack or whatever.
I was gonna say it's like a backpack that like a cool girl wears. You know?
Yeah. It's got some E in it.
Yeah, there's definitely some Molly in the backpack. Jason's Molly. You know, Jason has the heavy Molly habit.
That's why later Jason is like, I got to get that backpack
and
back.
That's why Jason's into dancing. We cracked the code, Kevin.
This book rules.
This book fucking rocks. Never mind, I like the ending of this book now. I made it work for me. So he's wearing this backpack. He gets made fun of. He knocks over the gravestone. Okay, I don't know. We were talking about Catholic things, right?
Yeah.
I, as a Catholic boy, gained a lot of superstition. I was a very superstitious person. I really relate to Martin Scorsese because he talks about how his Catholic upbringing made him incredibly superstitious. And I really relate to that. And I think for me, as a kid growing up, I was very scared of ghosts and graveyards because there were a lot of superstitions based around them, right? Like monsters scared me, but in a different way, like where like there wasn't that level of believability, but like because religion taught me that we do have a spirit within us, ghosts were real in my mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There is a holy ghost. There literally is a ghost.
You kind of have to believe in ghosts to be Catholic. Like,
exactly.
Those two are sort of inseparable. And also, Catholicism places a big emphasis on ritual.
Yes.
And, like, we observe certain rituals for a very, like, practical purpose. Like, these are useful things, and you should observe these traditions and rituals. Otherwise, there will be fucking consequences.
Yes. Christianity, or Catholicism is an OCD force multiplier, for sure.
That one got me. That's fucking real.
All that is to say, I would have found this very scary, and knocking over a gravestone. I'm just saying this book is working for me because I was putting myself in my young child shoes reading this book. And if I read a kid knocking a gravestone over, especially one with a fucking written curse on it that said, "I'm going to curse your ass if you knock this over," terrifying to me. So this one was really kicking for me at this point.
So like when you first start doing confession, like when I first started doing confession, and I didn't do confession for very long.
No.
But like when I first started doing it, I was like, shit, I got to think of some sins I've done.
Do you make up a list of easy sins? Well, you have your real sins that you're not going to talk about.
And then like when I did when I did a real sin, I'm like, that's not coming up in confession.
Like in my mind, jerking off, real ass sin, not talking about that. Definitely. That was one of those ones that like real ass sin, and I know I'm going to hell for it if I don't, and I'm like, I'll get around to talking about that one. I'm going to punt that one for a bit. All right, I fought with my brothers and sisters. That's the one I'm telling today.
That's a good one. Yeah, that's a reliable one.
That's a reliable. I lied to my parents. You know, like really easy ones that you don't have to feel really bad about.
God, this is dredging up some memories.
And this is where we need Chad too to be like, guys, it's okay, move on.
That's true. I could seriously talk about Catholic memories for like 3 podcasts. So
we can move on.
All right, so Spencer comes home and he gets spooked because something grabs his leg in the graveyard, or does it?
This is a classic RL moment, and I think if anything points to an RL moment or to RL writing this, it's this one where a thing definitively grabs his ankle, right? Like a hand definitively grabs. Does it say something to, or it just grabs his ankle? I can't remember.
It grabs his ankle. I don't know if there's words yet.
I don't think there's words yet. Yeah.
This could be like the beginnings of the ghoul trying to enter him.
Right. We don't know the ghoul rules yet.
Yeah, we're unschooled in the ghoul rules.
Oh my god! Oh my, incredible.
And so Spencer gets freaked out. He loses his baseball hat, which, if you wear a baseball hat to school and then you have to take off your baseball hat, but then you go outside of the school and you get to put your baseball hat back on, that is as close to being like a cool kid that you're gonna feel like as a baseball hat wearing little nerd.
Without a doubt, because that's bringing a lot of cool. That's carrying the cool for you.
Yeah, for whatever reason, you can't wear your hat in school, like anywhere in school, which always bothered me.
Right. Yeah, it's what's the rules here? Are we at a dinner table? Are we? Well, for me, I was in Catholic school, so that made sense, right?
Yeah, you're at God's dinner table.
I mean, God's dinner table. We must follow God's dinner rules constantly. Yeah, that was my reasoning for it. But I were you allowed to wear hats in public school? I didn't go to public school until high school.
I was not allowed to wear hats in public school. Okay. And you know what? I get it if it's at a dinner table, all right? I don't want Tony Soprano coming over to me and telling me to take my hat off. That would be scary.
Do not wear a hat to an Italian restaurant.
No. God, no.
You only have yourself to blame for the consequences of that.
Like, just in case, like, the proprietor is an old school Italian guy, maybe just take off your hat in the McDonald's.
Just take it off. Who knows? Maybe that franchise is owned by Tony Soprano. Who knows? He's got his fingers in a lot of different pies.
The show could have gone anywhere from that finale. We don't know if
he cleaned up. He got into franchises. There was that Jamba Juice moving in. He decided to buy in. That's a real plot line that he buys into the Jamba Juice.
Oh, nice. Now I kind of want a Jamba Juice.
You know what? I was just going to derail it further. I'm not going to do it.
We'll talk about Jamba Juice in our Camp Goosebuds podcast, which you can find by donating to us on Patreon.
Join Patreon to get the juice.
Oh, and we're doing brain juice next time, so that'll be a lot of Jamba Juice talk.
It's Juice Month.
Get juiced. It's Juice Month.
June is Juice Month. All right, so
I love it. I love Juice Month.
There's a chaotic energy when it's just you and me. You realize? I didn't realize how much. I always felt like maybe I was the one who was like keep containing the chaos, but now I'm realizing that it is Chad who is the one who contains the chaos.
Like, I love having Chad around because he does contain the chaos, but I do find it really interesting to remove one of us from the equation and see how like unbalanced we are. Like, it's like a writer exercise almost to put two characters like there's normally a third character, but we'll take one out and now they have their episode. It's like all the Zuko field trips in Avatar season 3.
This is our Pine Barrens Sopranos episode. This is you and me lost in the Pine Barrens.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's going to be good because this is a great book.
All right.
He loses his hat. He loses his bag in the fear moment, right? So like he runs off. Now I was like, all right, losing the bag, maybe. But the hat, to your point, Spencer's got hat hair and he's with his crush and he's going to forget his hat. I'm not buying it, Spencer.
I do like also in between losing his hat, he does re-zip up because it's too cold to be rugged.
Yeah, he realizes he's already presented fear in front of his crush, so he might as well just go all in on being a fear boy.
Might as well be cozy.
Be a cozy fear boy.
So he's got to go back for Jason's purple backpack, or else Jason's going to throw a fucking shit fit.
Yeah, I think Jason confronts him about his backpack. In fact, and is like, where is my purple Barney backpack?
Yeah.
I'll tell mom and dad, and then you're going to have to confess that you stole and lost my backpack.
Yeah. So he calls up Audra, and he's like, I'm going to the graveyard at night, and I need backup. And she's like, you're totally stupid. Yeah, I'm down. And at that point, at that point, you got to be like, this girl digs me.
She's totally into him. In fact, she essentially, when she shows up, she tells Spencer that Frank the bully called her, and she told him where they were going, which is totally her being like, I'm going on a date with Spencer to the graveyard.
Yeah, it's no big deal. Just going to the graveyard with Spencer.
Just going to graveyard. Which also, Audra, let's tighten up the ship here. All right, like you know what you just did. You know you let slip. You're not good at keeping secrets, and you know you just created a jump scare for us later.
Yeah, and Audra, if Frank calls you, let it ring. All right? Let
it ring, or pretend to be your mom for a second. If like in classic, like there was no way to know who was answering that phone. You can lie a little bit. You're going on a date. You're going on a date here. Keep it a little sacred.
Yeah. So it's good advice. It's good advice from the Goosebuds.
It's good advice from the Goosebuds when you're going on your graveyard date. They go to the graveyard, and they're looking for the bag. It's dark. It's spooky. And there's some great imagery again. But then the bullies show up so they're looking around, and I think Spencer hears something behind him, and he thinks it's Audra.
He hears some heavy breathing behind him. Heavy breathing,
yes. And he thinks it's Audra. And then he sees Audra in front of him, and he goes, "Uh-oh." And then I think it turns out that it's Frank, right? Frank and Buddy, his buddy.
Yeah, we don't really know the source of the loud breathing.
Okay, we don't.
I don't think the shit twins could like move like that. Like I don't think they could like disappear into the night.
That's true. That's true. I just read it. I definitely read it as it being Frank, but you're right. It wasn't. But they do show up, and they have two more described as big beefy guys. Two more big beefers come along with them for this scaring
that seems like overkill for Spencer. For like just Spencer, they're like pulling out like their two other muscles, like
Spencer, the writer, they need to get the big muscle out.
Well, I mean, bullies are cowards, so
that's true. That's true.
Yeah. So all like Spencer tries to fight back, but like they just like totally like shut him down, and then they take out some rope, which is exciting because we learned that someone was hanged in this town.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we didn't talk about that. We didn't talk about that gravestone, which was an excessively dark little detail. Yeah, and it's funny because to just backpedal a little bit, they talk about that gravestone and they're like, that guy must have been real fucked up. He probably murdered somebody. And then they knock over the gravestone he does knock over, which has the curse on it that basically is a threat to him. He's like, well, these are two little boys that died here. They probably died innocently and did nothing bad whatsoever.
Yeah. He's like, I'm a child. I believe in the criminal justice system. We were right to hang that person. I don't want to think of a world where we weren't right to hang people.
And two little boys, they could never do anything wrong.
This book is subversive. And there's a very subversive scene about criminal that's tangentially related to criminal justice.
Yes.
That we'll get into in a bit.
I'm very excited to get to that.
But yeah, Spencer is tied to a grave with rope and then left to the elements as Audra dips.
Yeah, Audra dips out, but she does say she's going to get some help. So, and this is the only thing that allows Spencer to mentally make it through the first portion of this scare, right? Like he steels himself knowing that help is on its way. But this is a scary sequence. Like I thought about this moment and I'm like, this is really terrifying. Can you imagine legitimately being tied up? Like he tries to get out of it. He tries to wriggle out of it and it just grows tighter, you know? He tries to make noise. He tries to make noise to steel himself, and he accidentally summons bats, which come at his face.
I love that part. That felt very RL to me. Just like, bats, the ultimate villain. It's like, no, they're little squeaky mice. Like, that fly.
They're scared of your voice. You rustled them up.
Bats are cool little dudes. I won't stand for this bat villainy.
No, and we have Josh Henderson was on this show recently and has a very anti-bat story, but I still stand with you, Kevin. I think bats are cool little guys.
They're pollinators. They're nice.
Yeah, they're sweet. They eat bugs.
But the bats are not the worst thing to happen to Spencer tonight, as a green grave mist, a sour, sticky mist, starts coming out of the graves. This was definitely touched up by RL, but based on all the sour. But this is a good use of sour because we get a sense of how sticky the grave mist is, which I thought was an interesting little note.
It really puts you like, because mist is it's spooky in like a visual sense, but in like when you're just talking about it as like a descriptor, not typically that scary. I know I said at the beginning that it was used to good effect there. I think it was, but like mist is not really that threatening, right? But you're right. This mist, we can tell, is like almost like a blob.
Yeah. I thought it was a nice little uncomfortable, you're tied up style scene.
Yes, yeah, and you're being forced to, basically being, you're being Dutch ovened by ghosts. Essentially.
Yeah, essentially. Scientifically.
That's
what we would call it. Yeah. And then we get the haunting chant of, I need your body.
Scary stuff happening. And then ghouls emerge from everywhere. Ghouls everywhere. And they're described in... now, here's one thing that I will say that RL, and this is why I think RL did touch this up. RL loves to go on a little too long. He has like... We need like 2, maybe 3 good descriptions of a ghoul. He gives us like 6 or 7 ghouls here.
Yeah, a lot of flyover pages.
Yes.
Just spent on ghoul descriptions.
There are multiple flyover sequences in this book where I was like, okay, all right, we're going to get to the point. Get to the next plot point. Please. Enough table setting here. But there are a lot of ghouls. One pops out, and it's an old woman. And she says, Oswald Manson and his brother burned down half this town. They set it on fire for fun. People died. So many people. And that's
dark.
That is dark as hell. We realize that Spencer's crime gauge is way off. Again, because he totally got the assessment wrong. And we find out that he messed with some bad ghosts. He knocked over the worst gravestone he could have knocked over. He
then feels an interesting sensation as he is pushed out of his own body.
Yes, a hand places itself upon his head and pushes down. This is again, the anytime that so this happens multiple times throughout this book is where a ghoul's spirit takes over someone's body, and even when Spencer is doing it, which we'll get to, it's really fucked up. It's a really strange and odd sensation that's conveyed through this, and I think it's really cool.
Yeah, it definitely feels weird. Every time they talk about it, it's a weird sort of
it's like a body agency thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's creepy. It's very creepy.
And then he becomes an invisible mind form sort of thing. Like he's just a floating mind. He tries to look at his hands and he doesn't have hands.
He goes full out of body experience. He gets like existential as hell. He's like looking at his own body, which then grows a like rictus smile upon its face, which is extremely terrifying. It's like a clown-like smile. He's like, a smile I could never make on my own face.
He says, a smile made with my lips, but not my smile.
Yes.
Ooh.
It's fucking creepy. It's like this book has the biggest scares of any Goosebumps book that we've read, in my opinion. And now I may have said that before, but I really truly think this is the scariest Goosebumps book that we've read.
This is unsettling. I don't think any part of it feels like jump out like crazy shit your pants scary.
No.
They nail the unsettling aspect of a lot of this because there's so many moments that are just wrong in fun ways.
That's the distinction, right? There's like 2 types of scary. There's many types of scary, but I think like you could break it into 2 camps. There's like you're really scared in the moment because like there's a threat, and then there's the constant unsettling low level terror, right? Which is like that's what this book is constantly having. It's just like a slow bubble of scare that's constantly happening. Yeah, he becomes Ghost Mist.
Yep. And then his parents show up with Audra, and I love that Audra didn't go to get her parents because then she would get in trouble. She instead went to get Spencer's parents. You know,
she's been putting out a lot of signals to Spencer, and he's been really dim-witted about it. So you know what? Let her use Spencer here to avoid a little bit of trouble. She deserves it. She's been frustrated for a while.
Yeah. So when not Spencer, we found out it's Oswald Mance later.
Yes. Yeah.
When Oswald is in Spencer's body is untied, his mom hugs him, and his dad squeezes his shoulder.
I love that.
From a respectful distance, because he doesn't want his son to grow up creative or emotional or anything.
I can't hug you, but I can hurt you at the lightest amount.
He's like, this is physical contact that the books I read said that a father should do.
I have saved this for 12 years, son, and I'm going to use it now. You'll get another one when you graduate high school. Kevin, I also took note of that very dad moment right there.
I hug my dad, but
I know you hugged your dad. I know your dad was very affectionate towards you.
Paul, you might have hugged my dad too. Like, my dad's a nice guy.
I actually don't think I got to get a hug from Paco, but I will. I know I will.
Well, you got to come back.
Yeah,
you got to come back.
Definitely.
But I do love just that funny little bit of the dad being like kind of distant, even though his son was tied to a grave. Like, I feel like that's an appropriate moment to hug your son, but I'm creative and emotional. So I would say that.
they both had the worst night of their life. You could spare a hug here, Dad.
Yeah.
They take Ghost Spencer, Oswald Spencer back, right? Back home. They all leaving Ghost Spencer, Ghost Mist Spencer, floating in the wind, and he can't control where he's going. He's purely bounced about by the wind, and he's bouncing about. The ghouls begin to do a ghoulish dance around him, and begin to and it's incredibly creepy. It reminds me of the windmill town in Elden Rings. That was what I was imagining, and it's terrifying imagery. And he's lost. He doesn't know what he's gonna do, and then until I saw the rats, which made me fucking lol. Yeah,
the rat scene is crazy.
It's like that footage of I think it's like a fox decaying. It's like a famous thing that you would see in like school where they would show like the process of a body decaying in time lapse. That's how I saw this scene play out in my head. Because earlier when they were walking up, I think there's a small jump scare of a rabbit that jump scares them when they're going into the graveyard. Or maybe they see the rabbit earlier during the day, right?
Even that's a setup with a payoff.
Yes, they set up the rabbit. So we see the rabbit earlier. And now the rats come. For some reason, a wave of rats come. And Spencer is brought along with the rats. And does he enter the rat before or after this? I think it's after, right?
So the rats form like a horrifying carpet and just devour a rabbit alive.
A feeding carpet comes across and like a cleansing fire sweeps through the graveyard and picks the rabbit clean and it is described pretty detailed.
And I was like, do rats actually do this? And then I was like, I don't want to know if they do.
I know that there will be a video of it if I Google that, and I will not Google it. It's a pretty terrifying image, but then I think this is where Spencer realizes, hold on, maybe I can jump inside the body of something. Maybe I can do this. I saw it happen, so let me try it.
This is where things get anime.
Okay, go on.
Like, this is where he is like, maybe I have the same power, and like he manifests it by, in their words, invading a rat.
He puts his ghost mist hand, quote unquote, upon a rat and possesses it, which when you extrapolate out the science, the rules of what is happening, he sends the rat spirit outside of its body. As a boy, he has he knows who he is, right? Does a rat know what it is when it's removed of its base senses?
That is a fucking sentence, Paul.
Right? What happens to that rat spirit? You know?
I think he dooms that rat because ghouls can't leave the graveyard once they're in it. So he makes a rat ghoul, and the rat ghoul is now bound to the graveyard.
Yes, he binds this rat spirit because he takes its body, leaving it. Right?
Yeah.
Leaving the spirit. So unless that rat has the wherewithal, rats are pretty smart, so maybe the rat could figure out how to possess something. That's possible. But he does bind that spirit to the graveyard. Then he feels the satiation of having eaten the rabbit from earlier, which is gross. But it's not enough.
And well, he also has this like kind of like beautiful moment of like running across like the field as a rat and like feeling the wind in his whiskers and all this stuff. And it's like kind of fun.
It is. It's like he's like kind of like he's seeing the grass is massive and the trees are massive and he's got a whole new perspective on life. But then a little darkness comes back in and the sounds of the insects take over and he realizes he's in a cacophonous hell world, you know?
And he's like, I gotta eat this worm.
Then he gets hungry again and he fucking eats a worm. He bites through its rubbery skin and its black blood goes in all over his face, which he licks off hungrily from his face.
It's described as sweet, which is like crazy to think about, but like maybe in rat senses, this is delicious.
He's definitely, it's funny how much of his, I guess his like ethos stays the same. His like emotional ethos stays the same, but his baser instincts become rat-like because he definitely enjoys eating the worm, which we're supposed to read as disgusting, but he is definitely enjoying it.
Yeah, it's an interesting meditation on what a body and mind unity is and what is us and what is our like base physical needs in a Goosebumps book.
This one hits some spots. It's great.
So he eats the worm and then he makes his way closer to his house.
Yes.
But just outside his house, he gets a whiff of a decaying cheeseburger in a trash can.
Sweet green meat.
And he's like, I gotta get that decaying cheeseburger.
And he wolfs it down and he's loving it. Again, he's not grossed out in the least. It tastes delicious. But sadly, he raises the ire of other rats who see him eating in their territory. They come for him and he makes a narrow escape, gets up on a power line, which takes him into his house, where he feels that he is safe, only to be pounced upon by Duke.
Duke, a cat, a setup and a payoff. It meant something that they had a black cat.
It's great. Again, we're doing it. I will say this is this mild moment of cat slander, in my opinion, because they make Duke become a heel briefly, but he does turn it around.
I mean, if I turned into a rat, I'm not sure either of my cats would know it was me.
No, you're right. They are the enemy. They would become the enemy at that point.
Yeah, I feel like I could not coordinate a false flag operation with my cat. So. And that's Houdini's very smart, and I love her, but I don't think I could get into deep political warfare with her.
No, there would be you would not be able to bridge the mind gap with that cat.
Yeah. So there's sort of a lengthy Duke fight as Spencer as a rat, Dark Souls dodge rolls around the cat.
Okay, so this part, like, I was like, there's a reason why cats kick rat ass, right?
Yeah.
But in this book, maybe it's because it has the mind of a Spencer within it. I don't know. But in this time, the rat is the better of the fighters because he whips around, gets onto Duke's neck, and rides Duke like a horse.
Yep. I mean, Duke gets some good hits in, like he grabs Spencer by the tail and starts whipping him around, which is a classic cat move.
Yep, that was some good cat writing, and I think that maybe at that point RL showed that he's observed a cat or two, or whoever did write this.
Yeah. And this is where the anime powers of Spencer are evolved further when he realizes that he can jump out of a physical form and into a new physical form.
Mm-hmm. A more powerful physical form now.
So he bails out of the rat and upgrades to Duke.
Mm-hmm.
He goes into Duke's mind and the rat just sort of falls over dead.
Yeah, so at this point, we're saying that when Spencer relieves a body of his spirit, of his ghost mist, not near the other ghost mist, he's essentially dooming that rat to being dislodged from his body for eternity. Which worries me about Duke. It makes me worried about Duke. It's implying something that I don't want to think about.
I think the only reason the rat ghost couldn't follow was because it was trapped in the graveyard. So I do think there's hope for Duke.
Okay, so you're saying Ghost Mist trapped within the confines of graveyard unless the corporeal form takes it out. Then Ghost Mist outside of graveyard, full freedom.
Right, because later on we do get another Ghost Mist interaction. But
you're right.
By the way, this whole like mechanic of like jumping into bodies reminds me of one of my favorite Nintendo 64 games, Space Station Silicon Valley.
Yes. I was also thinking, wasn't there a game called Geist that was like this too?
I think so, for like the GameCube or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. I like the body possession mechanics of most games. I think they're fun.
Yeah, that has that been. We're gonna get the rail, but I feel like that hasn't been explored a lot since that era of N64 and GameCube. I feel like there hasn't been a lot of body possession stuff going on.
I feel like it must be tough to do, but what do I know? I just make them.
I'm almost positive that the mechanic has been explored further, and I just have not played them.
Yeah, if anyone's got any recs, let us know.
Yeah, please.
I forget what happens first, but as Duke, Spencer goes in through the cat door and attempts to warn his parents by meowing at them.
He just does cat stuff, ultimately. He tries to wake them up in their sleep by pouncing on their faces, playing with things, meowing, which is just all cat stuff, all a thing a cat will do to you. So nothing that would be out of the ordinary that would make his parents recognize him as being a child trapped in a cat.
Yeah, he tries to get a pen and write a message, but he's a cat. So.
Yeah, it worked. He was able to utilize his rat body in ways that a rat should not be able to, but he cannot. He is not able to do that with Duke's body.
Yeah, well, his dad picks him up as a cat and throws him outside and locks the cat door on him, which is don't do that.
Yep. Now, does he see the eating before or after this?
So now he breaks back into his house.
That's
through,
right.
like, the kitchen window.
Yes, that's right. Oh, no, through the bedroom window. He goes back up through the bedroom window because he finds his room torn to shreds, which is...
Yeah.
It's a pretty terrifying... Again, another terrifying image. There's just like, someone has gone berserk here, right? Yeah. And he follows the trail of destruction downstairs, and then he sees his body with... what's it, Oswald? What is it again?
Oswald Mance.
Yes. Is inside of his body... basically unhinging his jaw and lacking a gag reflex, literally swallowing entire pickles whole from a jar.
Swallowing whole pickles from a jar and eating an entire jar of mayo.
Drinking buttermilk. It's fucking disgusting.
It's such a great gross out scene. And also, it's also kind of funny because you know that even if Spencer is victorious, he's gonna have to deal with the gastrointestinal fallout of that.
He has a lifetime of gastrointestinal issues ahead of him because of this. Okay, at this point, I want to bring up something that occurred to me while reading this book. Up until this point, this book has been a pretty good scary imagery and stuff like that, but mostly just like spooky ghost story, right? At this point, this book becomes an Evil Dead, Army of Darkness, demonic body horror. That is what this book becomes. When we see this sequence with Demon Spencer, that's from here on out. It's just what are they called in Evil Dead? They have a name for the demons. They're called Deadites. This is like we are dealing with Deadites at this point. It's incredible. We have it's the same level of they're angry, they're destructive, and their eyes are turned into this horrible pitch black. No pupil no white of the eye. It's just all pupil black, and they talk in a horrific voice. Weird. It's Deadites. This is some Sam Raimi shit. It's incredible.
I think the fact that Spencer is also there in a different body to observe his body, being a freak, is powerful. It's something I hadn't really considered in the body swap horror genre.
Yeah, yes, definitely.
It's really cool. And basically Oswald can tell that Duke is not Duke. Duke is being driven by Spencer.
Yeah. There's a sense and an ability to hear each other. It's shown early on that Oswald is the only one inside of Spencer's body is the only one who can still hear the ghost mist of Spencer.
Oh, we also forgot. Sorry, this will come up later. But as Spencer was leaving the graveyard, he heard a faint "Help me, help me," and he's like, "That's weird," and we kept running.
Yeah, better not deal with that. In his defense, was filled with rat hunger at the time.
Yeah. And it was probably a weird sensation because apparently male rats drag their balls everywhere.
Doesn't he talk about the belly rubbing on the ground?
Yeah.
That's code for balls.
That's his balls. Male rats just drag their balls everywhere, and you can track them. I learned that from King of the Hill.
Thank you, Dale. Thank you for that little bit of information. No Dale talked about that. Positive.
Yep. Anyway, evil Spencer, aka Oswald, grabs Spencer Duke, the cat, and puts him in the basement in a cardboard box and puts a heavy thing over the cardboard box.
Which is sad and scary. It's a scary image because he takes him in a dark corner and puts him in there. It's like, again, it's just like doesn't feel right, you know? Like
it's dark and not just in a
not in a literal sense. Like a thematically, like this is like it's just a dark. I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like what's being told to me.
But I think it's interesting. Because basically, if Oswald, like, we know Oswald's a killer and an arsonist and a bastard who wouldn't think twice about killing a sweet little cutie pie kitty cat.
Yeah.
But if he does kill Duke's body, then he knows he just ejects Spencer.
Right. I think we're under the assumption, right, that, like, Spencer is cut free of mortal coils, ostensibly. We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen until the very end, right?
That would make sense as to why Oswald doesn't just kill Duke.
Right.
So there's a kind of a scary and sad scene where Spencer as Duke is like caught in the cardboard box and is trying to claw at it but can't get through. And he's losing hope. And then to make things worse, there's a spider in the box.
Yep. And this is great because we call back his fear of spiders. And I think as a reader, maybe as a kid, you wouldn't pick up on this right away, but you're a little bit ahead of Spencer here where you're like, all right, get in the spider. And he's just scared of the spider for a little bit. But in a good character moment, he realizes I need to overcome this fear. I need to become the spider to solve my problem. And he does. Now, here's my only problem with the spider sequence. It goes so fast. And this is like a big...
very fast.
It's very fast. And this is a big character moment. I feel like there was more time. There was more disgusting rat eating than there was spider overcome fear of spider moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there could have been some interesting character turns there as the spider. But, you know, I don't know. I feel like there could have been a lot more there, but it just interrupted the pace of the book.
It's fine.
Just like,
yeah.
Let's get going because there's arson and crazy shit.
Yeah, now the book has shifted into its final chaotic gear, which is he rides up into his brother's room as a spider. Decides that he's going to hijack his brother's body, ethically dubious choice. But he detaches his brother's spirit from his brother's body and enters his brother's body. There's a cool sequence where he can't control his brother's body right away because he's used to being a spider, which I thought was like a fun like mechanics thing. You know, like where he just like
anime as fuck.
It's anime as fuck. It's just a kind of a cool moment. It's a cool detail that I don't think normally would be in normally I feel like in a Goosebumps book he would just take over and we would just move on from it, right? But there's a little detail that like kind of grounds this in a little bit of realism. But he takes over his brother's body and he starts hearing chaos everywhere. And he runs outside and
without freeing Duke, I'd like to point out, without freeing Duke.
I have the note, but what happened to Duke?
I think probably Duke is fine. I choose to believe Duke is all right and that his little like ghost self just sort of went back into his cat body. Or maybe the spider geist went into the cat and Duke went into the spider and they just sort of switched.
They species bended. Like who knows? Yeah. Like but I choose to believe that calmly Duke's spirit made its way back to its body like a cat spirit would. I think a cat is a calm and nonplussed type of creature that would deal with this very well.
I mean, this is just my personal belief, but I think cats are incredibly used to astral projection, and they're probably pros at it. So.
I think they're doing it constantly. I think that's why they sleep so much.
Yeah, they're not sleeping. They're just going for a little ride.
They're jecting, baby. That's why my cats leave little signs up all over the house that say "Gone jectin'."
Out for lunch.
Out for a little spirit lunch.
Out to kick the spirit tires a little bit. So, in his little brother's body, in Jason's body, Spencer goes outside to see his whole neighborhood on fucking fire. Babies crying. People outside of their homes looking at them on fire. Windows smashed. Cars flipped. So now we're also shown, again, to the Deadite theory, we're shown that Oswald inside of Spencer's body has tremendous strength. Yeah.
Like, unhuman strength.
I think Oswald just doesn't give a shit about Spencer's body in any way and thus can perform these super strength feats.
Incredible acts. Because he's, like, literally jumping on cars, flipping them over, setting them on fire. There is such a tremendous amount of destruction It's true. I was shocked, honestly, while reading this.
I say this with a lot of the Goosebumps books I like, but I think this could legitimately be a really cool, if not like live action, an animated featurette.
I think if you did it with like a Sam Raimi sensibility, this would be a really good little short, or maybe even full movie in any like live action animated. I think would be great.
Yeah, I just think animated would work for all like the rat scenes or whatever.
Yeah, the rat scene. Maybe you do a little like hybrid animation live action film. You know what I mean? Yeah, that'd be fun. It's wild, and he goes chasing after his trail of destruction. He finds him at a house, I believe. Where there are firemen, and he steals an axe from a fireman. Steals an axe, brandishes it, threatens them, runs away, and then 2 police officers show up. And Kevin, I'll let you handle the sequence.
Okay, so 2 cops with guns are like, put down the axe. Jason runs up and says, no, don't shoot him. That's my body. And the cops are like, kid, you're crazy. We have to shoot this tween.
This tween with an axe.
He's got an axe. I'm like, you don't have, I mean, you don't know that he's a ghoul, officers, but like, there's 2 of you, you both have guns, and he has an axe and is 13. Like, that was way too real. Kevin, it was a scary moment while reading that. Cops won't help you.
It was loaded. It was a loaded scene. and they don't help.
No, they're not here to help or protect you.
They get distracted with the moral quandary of shooting a 13-year-old. Their moral quandary of shooting a 13-year-old, and he slips off.
I don't think they're distracted by that. I think they're distracted by another child saying weird shit, and they're like, "Do we have to shoot this guy too?" And they take their eyes off of Oswald for a second, and he's gone.
Oh shit! Am I gonna have to shoot 2 kids tonight?
That's a lot of paperwork.
And then Oswald slips off into the night. And then our boy slips off after him. Finds him at Frank, who, what's Frank's last name? I think they say it.
Foreman.
Frank Foreman. He's at the Foreman's house, which is, what is it? It's not even, it's like is it just a house? I thought it was like a compound of some sort.
I think it's just a house. This is just a weird little detail moment where nothing really happens.
No, it's just sort of like Frank comes out, he sees, this is a thing where I think there's a little bit of waste, right? Frank really ultimately doesn't matter. I guess there's a slight moment. It's really wasted. It ultimately could have just avoided this whole scene. But Frank comes out, threatens Oswald Spencer, eventually subdues him with the help of young Jason Spencer, Spencer Jason. And he's like, go get your parents. I'm going to hold him here. But then he notices that Oswald, who says that he wants Frank's body because it's big and beefy, begins to take over his body, to which Jason Spencer breaks them up, tells them to stop because he knows then he's gonna grow even more powerful with Frank's body, right? Right. So like he stops it. Frank says like, you're like, what the hell are you doing? You know, I think at this point Spencer runs off again, right?
Yeah, Oswald as Spencer
runs off again. So ultimately that scene doesn't lead to much. It does threaten. I guess it establishes the threat of what Oswald is going to do. We do know that he's searching. He does state that he is searching for a better, stronger body, but we see we see what the better, stronger body is that he was going for, right?
Yeah, and then Spencer in Jason's body is like, I gotta get Audra because I can't do this shit on my own.
Right.
So he goes to Audra's house, wakes her up, and then realizes that she's been ghouled as well. It's Martin Mance inside Audra's body.
There were twins in the gravestone, so we should have known that there was going to be a twin possession, right?
Yep.
I'll be honest, wasn't thinking about it though.
That was well done.
It was well done. It makes sense. She doesn't she doesn't flee the graveyard when she's going to get help. That's when she's captured by Martin's spirit. It makes perfect sense. But I think the book did a good job of obfuscating that, you know?
Yeah, I legitimately did not think that would come to pass, even though it's very, like, blatantly, like, telegraphed that there are 2 Mances. There's Oswald and Martin Mance.
Yep. So we have this great moment of another fight. I think he is thrown across a room at this point.
Lots of fights. Like, this is great.
Again, it's very Raimi-ish. It's very, like, there's, like, some Evil Dead energy coming off of this. So I think what he does is he flees, right?
Yeah.
He discovers that Martin is taken over by, I'm reading the thing right now. And he realizes Audra's in the graveyard. So he goes back to the graveyard. He sees a grave that says, "Defeat death only by living."
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of a nice little, that's actually a pretty good little statement, I guess. And he hears Audra's spirit, which is the voice that we heard earlier as he was leaving the graveyard as a rat. And a dog just happens to show up. A little bit of a plot convenience here.
I can see a dog showing up, running into the woods after his house was set on fire.
That's true. The whole town is on fire, so there's probably a lot of loose dogs. So
yeah.
A dog does show up. It's fine. And he gets Audra to jump into the body of the dog. He teaches her how to uses the anime powers to get into it. And it's Oswald and Martin ass kicking time to,
Yeah. So, so Spencer in the body of his little brother and Audra in the body of a random black lab.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, the dog does not want to be possessed. Like, it's kind of a struggle to get the dog.
Yep. It fights.
They make their way back into the wreckage of the neighborhood to square off against the Mance brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And at this time, Jason's spirit decides that he wants his body back.
Yeah.
And tries to get into the Jason body as Spencer's already in there.
Yes.
So there's a struggle where the two brothers are fighting over the body.
Yeah.
And he begins sort of rocking around, and it turns into a dance.
And I do want to say that the sequence leading up to this, prior to this, where the twins, Oswald or not the twins, but the brothers, Oswald and Martin, are threatening the family is incredibly terrible. They're holding axes over them. They're smashing him into the coffee table and like threatening.
Chopping up a piano.
It's pretty scary. But yes, so like this is all happening. The threats are happening. And then the dance begins. And that's when, now this is the part that didn't work for me, right?
Yeah.
So the dance begins and suddenly Spencer realizes what his brother is doing. And is that he read the defeat death only by living to do what it meant was to do something that only the living do, which is dance, which the book goes against itself because we literally see the ghouls dancing earlier in the book. They do a dance of the dead. It's said in the book that they do a dance of the dead. So it's not something that only the living do. It's literally something that the dead do in this book. That kind of pissed me off.
Yeah, but they don't, the dead aren't pop dropping and locking like
that's true.
Spencer and Jason are.
Spencer and Jason are crumping and it's sick. And they start doing this wild dance, and I love this. I do love this. I don't love the reasoning for it, but I do love that Spencer gets into it, and there's a description of him dancing to a wild rhythm, which I thought was so fun. That he's just crumping. Like he's crumping. He's just having a great time, and it begins to drive the spirits of Oswald and Martin out of his body and out of Audra's body. And eventually it works. Their bodies are freed. Are we told what happens to the spirits? Do they just disappear?
I think they're just pooped out into the universe or whatever.
Okay, they're out into the ether.
I do find the image of a young boy and a black lab just sort of like holding hands and paws and dancing in the middle of the street
while
the entire neighborhood burns around them.
While like firemen and police officers are like are scattered everywhere, and like there's just chaos and people. Oh my god, it's just what an image.
While a misty graveyard looms above them in the back.
Yes. So they release the bodies. They decide to get back into their bodies, right? Jason fully takes over his body again, and Spencer's spirit is released. Audrey releases the dog's body, and they head back to their bodies. This is the great moment, because you're like, how are we going to clean this up? You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, how are we going to get these kids back into their bodies, and then what are they going to say to everybody in town about why they destroyed their own town? We're just not going to deal with that, right, Kevin?
No, because something way weirder happens instead. In that they miss, they actually like they fumble a little bit, and Spencer ends up in Audra's body, and Audra ends up in Spencer's body, and there's like a good couple paragraphs where Spencer's just marveling at how pretty he is now.
Yep.
Take from that what you will.
And that's where we're left. And as I'm reading on the Goosebumps wiki page for Spencer Casimir, general information about Spencer, alignment good, status alive, parentheses, in Audra's body. And that's where we're left. That's where we are just dropped there. Nothing is resolved, which is probably for the best. And yeah, we get some nice gender bending ending.
And here's the thing. That's only like a weird hanging ending. They can leave. They already know the secret of like ghoul jumping. They can get out of those bodies anytime they want.
For sure. They can easily swap.
So maybe they just don't want to? I don't know.
I love it, honestly. You know what? I was saying that I didn't... The only thing I didn't like, again, was that dancing, because I was all caught up in the detail of the ghouls literally dancing and them saying that it's a thing that only the dead do. But because you said it is crumping and that is the thing that ghosts do not do, I agree. The book is good.
Here's my little salve for that.
Okay.
The dance we see in the graveyard that the ghouls are doing, that's like a pale imitation. They're not really dancing. They're doing the steps, but they're not feeling the rhythm. They're dancing to try to feel alive.
It is a hollow representation of dancing. I'm with you.
Right. Dancing isn't about doing the steps, it's about feeling.
It's about feeling. So, yes, you could do a cold and calculated dance. It would not be dancing. You have to do it from your soul and your spirit. I'm with you.
Yeah. So that would be my argument, is that the dance that the graveyard ghouls do, where it's creepy and slow and precise, like that is them just like trying to feel alive. And what Spencer Jason does at the end is actually he feels the rhythm and he is alive.
That's beautiful. It's beautiful. I love that.
This book rules. Like, I would almost recommend you, if you don't like normally read these books because we're kind of harsh with them, this one's actually kind of a great like little Saturday sit down for an hour and read a thing.
This would definitely be one worth reading. I think the prose is pretty good. I said, there's a couple moments where I think R.L. goes a little. There's a couple moments where you get into the classic like, was I really going to do this? You know, like the thinking for a couple of paragraphs where it's just sort of wasting time. There's a little bit of that, and there's a little bit of over description. But overall, this thing cooks.
Yeah, it's very rare that like I recommend a book at the end of one of these podcasts. But this was legitimately really fun, and the imagery is good, and the setups and payoffs are great. I like the characters. I like a lot about this book. I wish we knew what happened to Duke. That would be my only note.
Like, I am heartbroken that I don't get to find out the fate of Duke. Like
if Spencer was like, oh my god, I hear screaming, hold on one sec, goes down to his basement, make sure Duke is all right, he would be my favorite Goosebumps kid ever.
I know. I just wanted him to rescue Duke. I needed the Duke plot line tied up before we moved on to the fire in town. I needed it, but we didn't get that. You're right, it's the only rub in this book.
I think we deserve a character who is kind.
Yes. Alignment good.
Yeah, alignment good.
I'm not ready to say that his alignment is good because he didn't do that for them. I'm going to say neutral at best.
Like, just take care of the cat. Just be nice to the cat.
Save the cat.
Save the fucking cat. That's literally all any character has to do to earn my undying love, is just be nice to a cat.
Be nice to a cat, and then you can do whatever the hell you want with your new ghost mist spirit power.
Yeah, I think this does have, like I said, the powers in this book are anime as fuck. You could definitely like go like super franchise with this, like two ghouls having a duel by jumping into increasingly bigger animals or something like that.
You could absolutely get at least a 24 episode anime series out of this.
Yes, for sure. With an OVA at the end.
With an OVA and maybe a theatrical release of a movie.
Oh shit. Yeah, Chad, I'm sorry you didn't get to read this.
I am so sad Chad was not here. Chad, you missed a barn burner.
Yeah, we did this to you. I mean, maybe in a couple cycles we'll come back and read this one again. If we do like a best of like
if we ever want to bring back a guest, maybe, you know, and have Chad read this one, like someone who we've had on here that like maybe read a terrible book that we want to be like, hey, here's a good one. This would be a great candidate for that.
I would love to talk about this book with RL himself on the podcast.
If RL would come on for this one, like this was his opus so far.
I would grill him. I would love if he wrote this, then like awesome. Like he clearly got the resources and time and rest he needed to make something great.
Mm-hmm.
But if he didn't, I would like to like meet the author who wrote this, because I think it's an excellent children's horror story.
Agreed.
It's fantastic.
Agreed. It pushes all the right boundaries.
Yeah.
Except for the fact that Duke was left unknown.
Do that, that is like a little dark cloud in the sky, and I'm not going to be able to ignore it.
You know what? It's a little imperfection that makes the art beautiful.
Is it? Save the cat.
I think that's a bump.
I think that's it. I think we bumped. Paul, you might have to do the outro stuff, because I always put on my dumb voice when I do it, and then I forget what I'm talking about. So you should probably do it.
Well, if you like this podcast, you can follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/goosebudspod, or you can email us at goosebuds@gmail.com and let us know what you think. And you can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/goosebuds, where you'll get access to episodes a little bit early, as well as a monthly episode where we bullshit, and this month we'll probably talk about garlic and scallions and shallots
and juice, because it's juice month.
And juice. Oh, sorry, juice month. Hashtag juice month.
Hashtag juice month. Yes.
Hashtag juice month. Very hard to say.
It is a bit of a tongue twister.
It's a little tough. And you can also you can get your name in the Book of Names.
Book of Names,
which will be coming up soon. And you can make us say funny things as long as they're not mean.
Yeah. And you can do that by giving money to our Patreon, which we already talked about, right?
We already talked about, yeah. Kevin, what the hell? Where the hell should people look for stuff that's going on with you?
If you want to hear the things I think about in text form, then you can go to twitter.com/realkevincole and you can listen to me talk. And I recently made a browser video game that is pretty good. It's called Blink Blanc, and you play a cat and you solve puzzles in your basement. And if you go to supertrystudios.com, you can play all of my free browser games. And I hope you like them, because I think they're good and I work very hard on them.
I agree. I think they're all delights, and you're gonna have a good time. If you like Kevin's humor, you're gonna have a good, fun, loving time.
Oh, Paul, where can people find you?
I hide away on the internet, so I don't really do that type of thing.
Hey, Continue's been pretty good lately.
I'm just kidding. So. I do have a show on youtube.com/continue show where we play old retro games. If you want to check that out, feel free to come on by. It's a clubhouse where we hang out and make a goofs together.
You making the goofs.
You're allowed to wear hats when you watch Continue.
Wow, that is very hospitable of you.
Mm-hmm. That should say everything you need to know about our show.
Well, Paul, I think I'm going to go wear a hat right now.
I'm going to go put my hat on and not think about Catholicism.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.
This episode of Goosebuds is brought to you by our wonderful Patreon supporters, especially those wonderful folks in the Book of Names.
The Book of Names.
Started off with Stefan, Jive, Turkey, Kuwabara,
Hollis, Hornbeak,
Cameron Murphy, Audio,
Michael McDowell.
Hey, Josh, Rob,
Nikki C.
Heard that, Hootie?
Hootie's going nuts in the background.
Nathan Dolzal,
Kelly C,
Mike Lanteri,
Buddy Morrill,
Alcade,
Mel Dipson,
Zen Keith,
Low Belly, Hate Me,
Afsheen,
Danky McStanky,
Dango Twists,
Brian Wells,
Elden Lord Zenticles. Congratulations.
Congrats.
Congratulations. Stealth Bates,
Patrick Reynolds,
Robert Moon.
Real quick, I would just like for anyone who is an Elden Lord to please update your name so I know all the Elden Lords.
Yeah, please.
Jason Crooker,
Clay Castle,
Miguel Pardo,
John Keaty.
Calf,
Third Sergio.
New episode of Paranoia Shop out now.
No, there's no new episodes. There's no new episodes. But thank you.
Sniggy,
Ishak Arafin,
Gregory D. Warren,
Alan Saylor,
Cody Redfield,
Bradford Coulter,
Aiden Alexander Dice,
Reinfected,
Jar Jar Slinks,
Justin Wagman,
Chosen One,
Cardboard Walk,
Levi Than,
Up and Champ,
Jonas Engman,
Beloyster,
Carl.
Hey y'all, Broccoli here. It's been a fun year, but all things must end. Broccoli
Jesus.
recipe incoming.
Yeah.
Is the broccoli recipe going to end us? Okay. All right.
I want to hear it. I want to know. Alicia Grave.
The last broccoli recipe you'll ever need.
The John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation.
Elusive koala.
Yanni Markovina.
Joe.
Brooke X.
Jesus Christ.
Christian Van Skeever.
Drew Applegate.
Jeremy Lowe.
Brian Hobgood.
Zach Connor.
Ooh, Patreon_donator, comma yo.
Are we doing ghosts?
Joe,
are we doing?
I don't know. Are we doing SNL or
That's what I-
Spooky? Because it both work.
Spooky or
I
SNL?
started SNL, it went spooky.
What's the difference?
Joe, Spooky Digital Ghost Tyranny.
Sorry, I had to SNL it up because it was a little too spooky. Tom Whittam.
Wow, I guess it's been a while since Andrew Jadzak has taken a long enough drive to listen to a podcast. Been there, dude.
That's real.
Lord Cornwallis.
Jonas Blatterman.
Carson Birkenbean.
Murph EP.
Tevin Ticklebean, Gnome Ranger.
Cool.
Are you a gnome as a ranger, or do you like corral gnomes?
Wow.
Or you like the Lone Ranger, but the Gnome Ranger.
Oh, I like that. Ooh, that's cool.
Sean Minogue.
Paul Grasso.
Rushy Glenn.
Wiggle it.
Joe. Regular name. Scott.
John Pigeon Hat Barber.
Chip Handsome.
Matt McClellan.
Alex Moon, the robotic dog.
Vincent Modica.
Sarah Kemp.
Luke Knoodles.
Tanya Turtle.
Hugh Bolin.
Zam Bambino.
Adam, you goofed.
Juan Jalapena.
Keith Halcrow.
Timothy Misadolakis.
Clay McCarty.
Nathan Remick.
Matthew Stevens.
Need more kimchi, formerly Devaldi. Thought I should clarify. I appreciate that, Devaldi.
Glad to know Devaldi is still there. Parker Lee.
Ham_boat.
Hey guys, Kevin here. Just wanted to know if Goosebuds is a pro or anti-September 11 podcast.
I don't-
Kevin already knows that answer. I don't know why he'd be asking.
I don't know how to answer that. I don't know if I should be pro or anti.
Wait, no, you're anti-September 11th, clearly.
But I'm pro remembering it.
I'm pro it as a date.
Yeah, it's a good. I mean, I am not anti. I'm neutral on all dates, really.
It's actually my parents' anniversary, so I guess I'm pro September 11th.
For good reason. Reed Stubendike.
Raymond Hernandez.
Flemily.
The Crow Feds.
Matthew Sutton.
Joey Evans.
Lee Wood.
Jeffrey Owen Cahy.
Carewise Gamgee.
Kelsey Kinnaman.
Swaggy Yolo Squire.
Cameron Hansen.
Russell Castberg, me lord.
Javier Jimenez.
Brandon Arifan.
Liam Neesonstow.
Chris Putricus.
Scotty Pippen.
Streak.
Meet Virginia.
Generally depressing.
Dom Sexy Ghost, a.k.a. Captain Sick.
Dungeon Kappa.
Yeah.
Ben Bohan.
Boss Garrettson.
MC Hamster on the ones and twos. That'd be more of a DJ, but, you know.
Zach Ware in the morning.
Limp Duck in the afternoon.
Stinklich after dark.
Ooh. Alan G. Jessom.
Tobias Clark.
Michael Kupka.
Adam Muth.
Eldon Slink. Congratulations.
Very nice.
Hey, Anthony, I'm glad you're doing better. Keep up the good work.
Good work, Anthony. Ryan Stewart.
Jonas Evan Voldson.
Calamity Carl.
Germ Juice.
Nick Johnson.
Stephen Day.
Estimena, Lord of Paul's Pants.
The wrong kind of lord, in my opinion.
Yeah, not an Eldon Lord. More of a Denim Lord. The Davy Boy.
Kenny M.
Ryan Carroll.
Jeremy Bowser.
Dr. Diarrhea.
Megan McCormick Mason.
Kieran McNamara.
Diet Soda.
Scalafella.
Ninja Breadman.
Jackie Ledoux.
Coleman Laguza.
They call me Dr. Lamb.
They call me Dr. Lamb.
I should have done. Yeah, see, I was like, I immediately fucked it up. I didn't sing it. Yeah.
Oh, you got little old Ma pretty Frenched.
Hey, Peanutberg level 69 is all I'm saying to that.
Dr. Chocula.
Jimmy Soul.
A pair of Scots.
Levi Kidder.
David Gray.
Bryce Deary.
Matthew Brittata.
Moon Juice.
Carbson.
I am Cornholio. I need TP for my bunghole.
SSJ Trogdor.
Some of Chad's bird friends.
Nicholas Maloney.
Midwest Indigo 13.
Burgers Hot Dwarf Summer World. Hell yeah.
Oh my.
It is the start of Hot Dwarf Summer, everybody. Burger has called it.
Just picturing a lot of dwarfs twerking right now, and I dig it.
Nice.
Thomas Jansis.
Aaron Lord. Another lord of something. I don't know what.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Tell me if I'm saying this wrong, but Dunnage Warehouse.
Tell me if I'm saying this right. Eric Horowitz.
Tiffany Lee. Definitely said that right.
Dr. Eggdrop Soupman.
Lucretia McEvil.
Elmreld.
Mutant Astronaut.
Mike Spaghetti Jones.
Henry Torbert.
Redemption.
Adam Knapp.
Chris.
Logan Derby.
Brad Schmelzer.
David Lynch, Triple X, Brendan Fraser, 666.
Chick.
Milk Punk.
Mr. Misfire.
Mandy Nasty.
Llama Lad.
Soggy Newspapers.
Wagmar Wigmere.
Dakota Kemp.
John Dub.
976 EVIL.
That smells evil. Philip Reynolds.
Detroit Red.
Nathan Gurney.
Kiwi of Lerv.
Serial Killer X.
R.R. Davis Crafts. Ryanimator.
Scott Wable.
Kit Bush.
That's Dr. Mr. Unimportant to you.
Is Kit Bush a Kate Bush reference? Because listen, I'm just digging that.
Everything's a Kate Bush reference now.
Kate Bush is New Zealand Kate Bush.
Okay, yeah, there you go. I'm just digging that resurgence of Kate Bush right now. Rocco.
Josh Howell.
Allie Safe.
Liam Rogers.
Evan Bowen.
Benjamin Luther.
Edgar's Crassus.
Zach Bentley.
Dennis Wright.
Hover the Moon.
Cameron Gansveld.
Greg Musto.
Vosivi.
Matt Septor.
Greg Gervasi, a.k.a. Vitizen.
Dakota Kipper.
Chad Chard Chunky Chode.
Jesus Christ.
Hey, Anthony Rodriguez.
Hey, B.
Oh my god, Kevin's had us monkeys trapped for 2 months. After writing 20 Goosebumps, he won't let us go. I have a PhD.
I think that last part's kind of unrelated to the other part of that story.
I'd like to address the recent monkey controversy leveled against me, and all I have to say is get back to work. Jeff Webb is a big baby, and now that it has been said on a podcast, it's definitely true. Congratulations on your new baby self, Jeff.
May you be reborn and have a new lease on life.
That's a sweeting.
I sure hope that nobody is using our podcast to mess with their friends. Don't mix me up in the middle of that.
Julius, the Nice Dragon. Aww.
Reverend Odin's Eyehole, MD. Another so many doctors.
Everyone's becoming Elden Lord and doctors.
A Faith Int build. Chiraku, the thing that goes doink in the anime.
Yeah.
Hey.
Hi, first time, long time.
Allie Rose.
Sprinkle Buns.
Spencer Y.
And now, welcome to the new names in the Book of Names.
Names.
Join us, Hilda B.
Welcome, James Stavranos.
Welcome, Gelato Coon.
Hello, Chris Byers. How long will you remain Chris Byers and not Chris Byers, Elden Lord, or MD or something?
How's it going, Mike Hunt?
I'm sorry, even the delay, it was still there. It's still there. You can't escape it.
I knew a Mike Hunt in middle school. Maybe this is him coming back. All right. Mike, if you were my former middle school bully, just let me know. It's cool that you're pledging and being part of the name. Just let me know. Kate the Great.
And finally, welcome, my cart. Close the book upon your name. Names.
Okay, stop there.
No, we did it. We're good. Nailed it.